of the injured El Hadj Diouf made it 3-1 as Mali goalkeeper Mamadou Sidibe woefully spilled an innocuous Senegalese free kick. A wave of substitutions littered the final 20 minutes and somewhat ruined the flow of the match, but in stoppage time the Eagles of Mali won a free kick and Moussa Koulibaly cracked home a fine strike to make it 3-2, and that's how this one finished. Tunisia hosted Namibia at the November 7th stadium, though the public hardly turned out in force to back the 2004 winners. A lacklustre start nearly cost the home side a goal too, but fortunately for them, Quinton Jacobs' shot was off target. It took until the second half for Tunisia to get going as substitute Yassine Chikawi evaded the robust challenge of Namibia's keeper before giving the ball to Aladdin Yaya to nonchalantly chip the opener. Not bad for a defender. In the 67th minute, the Namibians imploded as a dreadful free kick gifted possession back to the hosts, and Heikel Guimamdia fed Chakui Bensada to score number 2 to wrap up a routine victory. That's all for now, but we leave you with our Goalissimo gaff of the week, and it comes from Holland as AZ Alkmaar's Sergio Romero gets stuck in the mud against FC Twente. And from the muddy to the magical, our goal of the week comes from Portugal as Ricardo Quaresma conjures up yet another collector's item to keep Porto on top of the Superliga. Join us for more of the same next time on Goalissimo.
The snow's well packed in Austria. It's World Cup Snowboard next.
And then God said to me, "You are Messiah."
According to Michael, the end of the world is nigh.
It's sworn in the Bible that this will happen.
But first, you'll lose your wife.
God came down on Michael and forced him to consummate with Christiana.
You'll lose your children.
Yeah, I am brainwashed. Michael has washed my brain of all my own corrupt thoughts.
And you'll lose yourself.
Whatever you tell us to do, we will do, whatever the cost is.
We're given unrestricted access as Judgment Day dawns.
I'm not keeping anything from you.
The End of the World Cult.
Bye-bye.
Wednesday at 10 on 4.
Hello and welcome to the second edition of Snowboarding and Freestyle Skiing here on 4. In this week's show we head over to Sölden in Austria to catch up with both the men's and the women's parallel giant slalom competitions. Also later on in tonight's show we'll give you a chance to win a place on the Crystal Ski Challenge in Meierhofen, Austria. A lot to get through, so here's what's coming up in tonight's show and over the next couple of hours. So some great action coming up in tonight's show. Sit back in your armchairs and enjoy. Up next, before we go to the World Cup Tour in Austria, is Snow Patrol, all of the news from the winter sports world, and also your chance to possibly win a place on the Crystal Ski Challenge with this week's competition.
Norway's four-time Olympic ski champion Kjetil André Amat has recovered his medal collection that was stolen 4 years ago. 19 of his Olympic and World Championship medals were stolen from a safe in his father's house in August 2003. Amat received an anonymous phone call several months ago informing him that the medals had been spotted on the internet, and all 19 medals have since been returned. Axel Lund Svindal halted Canadian celebrations, powering his way to victory in the first Super G of the season in Lake Louise. Svindal, who won the opening giant slalom in Solden 3 weeks ago, cruised to victory almost 300ths of a second ahead of Benny Reich, with Didier Cush in third. The win means Svindal has scored points in all 4 disciplines after only 1 month of racing. The Canadian resort of Panorama hosted the women's second giant slalom of the season for the first time in 15 years, and it turned out to be a cracker. Overall World Cup champion Nicole Hosp was leading after the first leg, but a mistake on the second leg put paid to her chances, and it was Italy's Denise Carbon who recorded her second straight GS win. Austria's Elisabeth Gergel came second, ahead of Manuela Merlg. In the slalom, it was business as usual for last year's discipline champion Marlies Schild. The Austrian claimed top position in both runs to record her second World Cup slalom win of the season. And finally, there was terrible news for Axel Lund Svindal as the tour moved to Beaver Creek. The overall World Cup champion crashed badly in training on the Birds of Prey course and was hospitalised with multiple facial fractures and a deep laceration to his left buttock. It's not known yet how long Svindal will remain in hospital, but the situation certainly casts doubt on his ability to defend his World Cup crown.
Every week, the British snowboarding team coach Craig Smith, he's actually Canadian, will be bringing us a special feature. He's pretty mad, he's pretty wild, and he looks like ZZ Top. This is Craig's World.
Hey all y'all, welcome to my world. Today will be the 14th of November. Tomorrow I'm picking up the team. We're getting up to Saas-Fee to get ready to start training for the World Cup season. Last night, the coolest thing ever happened. I can just describe it this way. Stoked, dude. Absolutely stoked. Can't believe it. Check it out. It is just puking. In town, it's out of control. Like, cars are driving nowhere, and Châtel is just chaos everywhere you go. It's just unreal. And I'm at a lower altitude, so just imagine what it's like up there. I mean, in some parts I was driving in town this afternoon, it must have been knee-deep, at least. I mean, it started as a small snow shower. Dude, you could be pow riding today. Super stoked. So, I also heard Morjon opens on Friday. I'm going to be there. Châtel is supposed to, they're talking about now rechanging their opening dates. All of Porte du Soleil looks like it's about to open. Don't need to freak out now that the season ain't going to happen like last year. I mean, like, check it out. It has just dumped. There's so much snow everywhere. Like, look at the roof of my car. I'm really low. I'm only at like 800 meters here. All right, anyway, so we're getting ready for the King of the Hill. I'm here with Tams and Zoe and Ivy, who will be representing us at the King of the Hill, coming real soon. You girls stoked? You guys ready to go? What's the story? Right, so that was good. I'm stoked that I'm interviewing them because they totally know what's going on around here. I'll start with Tamsin. Tamsin, this will be your first competition overseas. How do you feel?
Really excited about going. I think it's going to be good fun and it's going to be a good experience just to go out there and see how all the other riders are doing and have a go.
Rad. Zoe, you're going to go to the King of the Hill. We're going with two plans. One plan is we're going to work on some stuff that we're doing with your sports psychology, which we're not going to tell people. Or Or if it turns out that, like, you know, it looks like a pretty easy crowd since it's worth 10 grand, we're going to quickly change it up and go for the coin, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. There's like 2 plans, just depending on who comes, really, because we're not quite sure who's going to be there, so decide on the 2 when we get there, I suppose.
Rad. Later.
The Sunday Times Crystal Ski Challenge Cup will be held in Meyerhofen, Austria in March 2008 and promises to be an amazing event. It doesn't matter if you're a ski novice or a wannabe racer, every participant will benefit from professional race training from the British Ski Academy staff. The Cup comprises 4 different events: a speed ski competition, a bumps event, parallel slalom and giant slalom. And in addition to the racing, the Cup also offers participants the option to experience a variety of other high-octane activities, including heli-skiing, skidooing and paraponting, as well as a gala dinner and VIP party hosted by Olympic legend Sir Steve Redgrave. You and a friend could be in for the experience of a lifetime if you win our competition. The prize includes return flights and transfers, 7 nights half-board accommodation, equipment hire, lift pass and entry into the Sunday Times Crystal Ski Challenge Cup events. All you have to do is answer the following question: who is the current men's overall World Cup champion? Is it A. Hermann Maier, B. Axel Lund Svindal, or C. Bodie Miller? To enter and for full terms and conditions, go to www.channel4.com/skiing. Good luck.
Good luck if you've entered this week's competition. Time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll whisk you away to the vast movie awards, as well as bringing you World Cup action from Solden in Austria. I'll see you in a while.
Flirt Mob has some of the sexiest guys and girls in the UK registered with their pictures. So join in the fun of Flirt Mob and you can chat, exchange pics and date hot members now. Text CUTE to 82400. That's CUTE to 82400.
At Halfords now, up to 50% off our entire sat-nav range. There's 50% off this LG, 50% off this Route 66, 50% off this Navman. Plus, you can reserve online now and collect in-store. Up to 50% off all sat-nav ends soon. At Halfords.
How do you solve a murder when the only witness, some kind of Black Rambo,
Okay, Blambo,
has lost his mind? Codename The Cleaner.
Missed your favorite Channel 4 show? Now you can catch them all an hour later with Channel 4+1.
Woohoo! We'll go home. Feeling sexy? That's disgusting.
I want to give you £10,000.
We can't do that. Isn't this fantastic?
We've got one.
You can do it. Loving this.
All your favorite shows 1 hour later. Channel 4+1.
Welcome back, and it's time to open up our coverage of the Snowboarding World Cup Tour for tonight's show. We're heading off to Solden in Austria for the men's parallel giant slalom competition. And if you're not sure how this discipline works, here's our ride guide explaining everything you need to know.
Snowboard slalom is a descendant of the skiing version of technical course racing. Originally a single format event with one racer on the course going against the clock, the sport has more recently evolved towards dual format, pitching 2 riders head-to-head in a race for the line. The Olympic Games has now adopted parallel racing as its chosen form of snowboard racing, and the Nokia World Cup has dropped single format from its calendar completely. This year we'll be seeing 2 forms of parallel event: the shorter, tighter turns of parallel slalom and the longer, wider turns of parallel giant slalom. Both courses consist of about 25 gates. with the slalom course being set on a vertical drop of about 100 meters, and the larger giant slalom course over a vertical drop of up to 200 meters. The gates marking out the course differ from those of slalom skiing. Their triangular shape allows the riders to bank hard around the turning point, as the metal edge of their board bites into the snow to hold the line. The two race lines are set out to be as identical as possible for fairness. They are marked out with the red course on the right and the blue course on the left. Each heat consists of 2 runs, with the competitors swapping courses for the second run. When both times are added together, the fastest rider progresses to the next round. This elimination process continues until the 2 fastest riders meet in the final to decide who the winner is. The FIS points for both the parallel and the giant slalom will be combined to name an overall slalom champion for the season. The winner will walk away with the coveted FIS Crystal Globe.
Welcome to Solden in Austria for the second World Cup event of the season for the slalom racers. First of the year was in Landgraaf in the Netherlands, an indoor event. That was a parallel slalom. This is a parallel giant slalom, longer, wider turns, 27 gates in all, and it's a high altitude course. The top of the course at 3,200 meters up on the glacier here in Solden. We're going to pick up the action with the men going into the quarterfinals. And one of the biggest names in the game, Mathieu Bizzetto, is first to feature. Mathieu Bizzetto from Val d'Isère in France, a 3-time World Cup champion, and the current leader after his win in Landgraaf. There he is in the Tour leader's yellow vest. He is drawn against Daniel Biversen of Sweden. And Bizzetto is on the right of the screen on the red course, Biversen on the left of the screen on the blue course. Here they go for the quarterfinals. It's a great start for Bizzetto, fired out of the gate there. He's got an early lead, only about a board's length, but that could be critical at this stage. Now, as they draw level with the camera, we get an idea of the lead there. Biversen doing well to hold on to the Frenchman, but it only has to be a matter of fractions of seconds to make a difference at this World Cup level. So brilliant riding from Mathieu Bizzetto in the yellow vest there, the Frenchman who has competed in over 160 World Cup events in his 10-year career, and in 60 of those he ended up on the podium. So one of the biggest names in the game. He took a break 2 years ago, came back to finish 5th in the World Cup Series last year, and has won the first event of the season this year. Now he goes ahead of Biversen in that first heat by 0.56 of a second, and that's the advantage that he'll carry into the next race when they swap courses. Here we go then for race number 2 of the quarterfinals. Benjamin Karl, there he is, number 18 in the black vest on the blue course. Drawn against Patrick Büßler on the blue course. Büßler from Germany, Karl from Austria. Neither of these riders have got a particularly strong World Cup record. They're both relative newcomers when compared to the likes of Biversen and Bizzetto, who we've just seen in action. But of course, every new season throws up new names, new stars of snowboarding, and these guys have made it through to the quarterfinals, so in theory they are in with a shout of a place in the finals. And if either of them go further in the competition, it'll be some of the best results that we've seen from either of them. Well, it's Benjamin Karl, the Austrian, who gets the upper hand over Germany's Patrick Büßler by 0.36 of a second in the first of their 2 races. So 2 relatively inexperienced World Cup athletes, both looking good, banking hard there around that right-hander. Pretty evenly matched. Neither of them had a World Cup win. Today in Solden could be the day. Back up top, Rock Flander on the left on the blue course, Matthew Morrison of Canada on the right. Now Flander on the blue course, keep your eye on him. He is the reigning world parallel giant slalom champion, racing for Slovenia. Mark Morrison at only 20 years old, sorry, Matthew Morrison I should say, only 20 years old on the right-hand side of the screen. One of a new breed of Canadian athletes who made an impact on the World Cup circuit last year, and he really is giving Rock Flander, a much more experienced athlete, a real run for his money in this quarterfinal first race, and crosses the line first. Well, that's a great result for Morrison. Flander 0.17 of a second down on the Canadian. And Morrison has a very, very smooth style, very fast from edge to edge. It manages to maintain a smooth line around those gates despite that speed. And it certainly got the better of the more experienced Rock Flander in that first round. That's what it's all about, keeping the center of gravity nice and low around those turns and keeping the edge pressure digging into that snow to maintain that turn. Conditions today in Solden are actually very good. Fresh snow, high altitude, it's holding up well. The course not rutting up too badly at this stage. And although there's a bit of cloud around, the light conditions at the moment aren't too bad. Here we go then for the last of the quarterfinal rounds. Alex Unterkoffler on the blue course. Adam Smith on the red. Austria meets the USA. Once again, a couple of quite new names to the top 10 of the World Cup. Adam Smith has had 78 World Cup starts, but doesn't often feature in the top 10. So he's having a good start to this new season. Well, there was a mistake there on the blue course from Unterkoffler, and that'll cost him dearly. Look at the lead that Smith now has. No pulling back from that, and that means that come the second round, the Austrian will be looking to push as hard as he possibly can and force a mistake from the American. So there we go, Adam Smith, 1.49 seconds up on the Austrian after round one, and that's some of the best riding that we've seen from him in these quarterfinals today in Solden. And there's Unterkoffler, the arm going down. That was the mistake that cost him dearly in that round. The extra drag that causes, seriously slowing down his momentum. And well, we saw the results, almost 1.5 seconds difference by the time they'd crossed the line between the two. It was a good recovery from the Austrian, but maybe a lack of experience showing through there. And it leaves him with a lot to do in the second round of the quarterfinals. Okay, back up top for the second runs. So the athletes that were previously racing on the red course will be racing on the blue. There's Matteo Bizzetto and Valdeser. Finished 5th last year. He's always missed out on the podium in the big events, the World Championships and the Olympics, but as I mentioned earlier, 3-time World Cup champion. He's now on the left of the screen on the blue course. Daniel Biverson of Sweden on the right, on the red. Now, Bizzetto's gate opened before Biverson's. That's the difference that he accrued after his win in the first round. And it's down to Biverson, the Swede, to close that gap. And up against someone like Bizzetto, I was going to say that's going to be tough, but Bizzetto just pushed it too hard. Now, he didn't need to do that. He just needed to hold the Swede behind him. But obviously caught an edge there, maybe got caught in a rut. Visibility, as we can see from that shot, starting to play a part. A little bit of fog coming onto the course. I wonder whether that was what caused the Frenchman the problem. But that is a disaster for the man who went into this competition as World Cup leader, Matteo Bizzetto, and great news for Daniel Biverson. He will go forward into the semi-finals. And poor old Matteo Bizzetto is out of the running. So a good tactical game by Daniel Biverson. Just waited for the moment, kept his cool, and waited for the Frenchman to make a mistake. So the second pairing of the quarterfinalists, run number 2, Benjamin Karl and Patrick Büsler. Well, there we go, the view up the course. Benjamin Karl on the blue course on the left of the screen. He had the time advantage over Patrick Büsler after that first round event, so it's down to Büsler to close the gap. Now we can see that fog on the course that could well have caused the problems for Bozzetto just a few moments ago. Quite difficult to judge some of the ruts that inevitably start to form on the course in these later stages of the event. But a long course, this one, 540 meters, and there is that flat section in the middle. If you're not carrying enough speed after the top section, well, the middle section is often where the race is won or lost. And it is, in fact, Benjamin Karl who wins that race and advances to the semi-final. The Austrian having a good day on home snow today in Solden. Good view there of the hard boots favoured by slalom racers. Freestyle snowboarders, of course, tend to go for soft boots. The guys you see riding half pipe and snowboard cross. Parallel racers prefer the stiffer boots to get a better edge set into the snow. Okay, moving on then to Flander versus Morrison. That's Flander, number 10. On the red course, he's on the right of the screen. Now remember, he lost the last race by 0.17 of a second. It's not a lot, and Flander, don't forget, is the world champion. Tremendously experienced, a fantastic competitor, but Morrison, the Canadian on the blue course, is going great guns. Look at his technique, very, very smooth. Doesn't have the experience of Flander, but he certainly seems to have the technique. Now, Flander has managed to close the gap on that flatter midsection of the course, and it's going to be a very close finish as to who decides to go through to the next round here. Who is it going to be? It looks like Flander has the upper hand. Brilliant racing from the Slovakian. 0.35 of a second. Came from behind to pull ahead of Matthew Morrison, the Canadian, and it is, in fact, Flander, the reigning world champion, who will progress through to that next round. Just 1 or 2 mistakes from Matthew Morrison, who is so smooth on the top half of the course. You can see he's in the lead there at the midway point. A couple of little errors opened the door for Flander to come through and claim that semi-final place. Flander finished in 3rd place on the World Cup standings last year. The world champion as well, of course. Winner in a Rosa in Switzerland, and he'd love to get himself on top of the World Cup overall standings, I'm sure. Okay, the last of the quarterfinals then. Number 23, Unterkoffler of Austria. He's riding on the red course against Adam Smith of the USA on blue. Now Smith goes in with a massive time advantage. You saw the Austrians' gate opening 1.49 of a second slower than that of the Americans. So a big, big gap to close. All Smith needs to do now, there he is on the left of the screen on the blue course, is play it cool. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes, and as long as he doesn't push too hard, then the Austrian will have virtually no chance of closing that gap. So Smith doing well, he's holding him back. He'll be looking back there to see how close the Austrian's getting. Well, he has closed the gap, but Smith not taking any risks there. Comes in ahead of the Austrian by 0.26 of a second to claim his semi-final place. Well, some of the best racing we've seen from the American. We'll be very pleased with his performance so far in Solden. Anton Unterkoffler, there he is from St. Johann in Austria. Never been in a World Cup top 10, and although he's out of the competition now, it means he will finish in the top 10. So it's his career best. And what a time to do it on home snow here in Solden. On then to the men's semi-finals. Down to 4 athletes. And once again, it'll be 2 races for each semi-final pairing. Benjamin Karl of Austria, Daniel Biversen of Sweden, Adam Smith of the USA, and Rock Flander of Slovenia. Biversen and Benjamin Karl first to race. Biversen on the red course. Benjamin Karl on the blue. It's a good start by both racers. 1 or 2 mistakes there from Biversen on the far side on the blue course. On the red course, I'm sorry, I should say. He's touched a hand a couple of times now, and that means that Benjamin Karl, who's a much less experienced athlete, has an edge. Well, Biversen's made a great recovery. Look at that as they pass the camera at the halfway point. Biversen back in control of the race. A brilliant bit of racing from him. He was about 1 or 2 boards lengths down earlier on in the course, but what a fantastic recovery from the Swede. Comes in to finish ahead of Benjamin Karl by the smallest of margins, only 0.05 of a second. Of course, that means it still could go either way in the second race. Great start by Benjamin Karl. Another Austrian who's never had a World Cup win. 7th is his best ever position. And he can expect or will go higher than that today, I imagine. It's the critical moment. Snapping out of the toe side turn. Getting that edge into the snow on the heel side of the board as soon as possible. And that's where the hard boots come in, applying all that pressure on the heel side edge to bite into that turn. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back with the semi-finals in a few moments.
I must have been the only person in the world who didn't know who she was.
With the disappearance of the world's most famous woman.
Drive. It's beautiful up here.
Who are you?
I'm a dancer. I love to dance.
It didn't matter. I knew who she was. To me.
I love you.
You must be there tomorrow.
I don't care about tomorrow. No one can steal our dream. Goodbye.
And then she was gone. Has she forgotten? I know. I will not. Her kiss, her smile, her perfume.
I made my first million by the age of 30.
Mo Chowdhury is a man who likes a challenge.
No idea what I let myself in for, but
Be fine.
He's agreed to go undercover in Leeds to find people to help with his own fortune.
But how do you actually finance all this?
I've done this with my gyro.
But there's one problem.
I don't want it to just be a Pakistani project.
Before he can help others, Mo needs to come to terms with who he is and where he's from.
I've not lived within my community at all. I'm a white man with brown skin.
It'll change his life.
It really has enlightened me, so it made me change my way of thinking about Asian people.
And the lives of the people he meets forever. The Secret Millionaire. The series continues Wednesday at 9 on 4.
Welcome back to Solden in Austria. We're at 3,200 meters. We're halfway through the semi-finals of event number 2 for the snowboard slalom racers. In the gate, Rock Flander of Slovenia, Adam Smith of the USA. There's Flander in his trademark green racing suit. The reigning world champion. He's racing on the right of the screen, on the red course. Adam Smith has never been on a World Cup podium, and he's made a mistake already in the blue course. He's opened the door in this first of 2 races for these guys in the semi-final. Opened the door for Rock Flander. Now, Smith has stayed in the course, but the gap is such that he will just be given the maximum time penalty for that error, which is 1.49 seconds. Flander knows that the American is not on his heels and can relax. And that should be a 1.49 seconds. Yes, it is. The maximum time penalty allowed for this men's event. Well, that's the first round. They do get another chance, obviously, in the second round when they swap courses. But Adam Smith has given himself a pretty big task. He's going to have any chance of progressing through to the next round. Well, he just got in too deep on that turn. Got the weight a little bit too far over the edge. And span out 3 gates in to that semi-final first race. Flander, the 3rd place finisher in the World Cup Series last year, and of course the reigning world champion. A rider that many have tipped for World Cup glory this year. Back up top now though for the next of the semi-final rounds. Daniel Biversen and Benjamin Carl. There is Benjamin Carl racing for Austria. Against Biversen, who's a more experienced rider, although goes into this race with a 500th of a second disadvantage. Now that is not much, and Biversen is a good rider and a great competitor. But Benjamin Carl, a young gun, I was just about to say has the upper hand, but he was obviously pushing just that little bit too hard. I don't know what happened, maybe some fresh snow on the course. There has been a little bit of snowfall here. It was masking a rut and he just couldn't quite judge that turn at the top. Is it inexperience showing through, I guess? Well, that is a shame, as Daniel Biversen cruises through to claim his place in the final. So Biversen, we now know, is going to be in either the gold or silver medal position today in Solden. Great news for him and one of his best results for some time. Now, who he's going to meet in that final will depend on the next race. One more semi-final round to be run. There's the mistake from Benjamin Carl. Just missed timing his exit from that turn. Now I wonder at what point Daniel Biversen realised that the Austrian was no longer with him. It is worth checking because you don't want to push too hard if you don't need to and risk a mistake. So a slightly dejected-looking Benjamin Carl there. He shouldn't do that. This is still going to be his best ever World Cup result to date. So who will it be to meet Daniel Biversen in the final? The last of the semis, Rock Flander on the blue course, Adam Smith on the red. Smith, of course, going in with a 1.49 second disadvantage. And that's what it translates to. About 4 or 5 meters on the snow. Rock Flander just needs to hold on, keep to the course, and finish safely. He still seems to be flying by the seat of his pants somewhat. 1 or 2 mistakes on that midsection. Adam Smith has got nothing to lose. He can push Flander all the way. Now he's closed the gap, look at that. And this is first across the line situation, and Flander has left it very, very late. I think those mistakes on the midsection have really cost him. Luckily, he has a good finishing speed, only by 0.16 of a second though, and just scrapes through into that final position. Rock Flander there, just taking one or two many risks, I would say. Went from a 1.49 second time advantage. And Adam Smith almost got the better of him. Here we go then with the small final. This to decide positions 3 and 4. 2 races to decide it. This is the first of them. Smith on the blue course. Carl on the red. This for 3rd and 4th place. Benjamin Carl on the far side there has the upper hand at the moment, but he's made another mistake. That was very similar to what we saw him do in the semi-finals. He didn't crash out this time, but he dragged both his hands, and look at how that has cost him. Adam Smith from the USA, well, he was in the lead for a while, but it's a great recovery from Benjamin Carl. The 2 riders neck and neck now. Another mistake from Carl. What an exciting small final this is. The lead changing hands 2 or 3 times, but Adam Smith for the USA ultimately coming out on top and claiming that 3rd place position in Solden. There's the first mistake from Benjamin Carl, up near the top of the course. And it looked like the game was over for him then. But mistakes then came from Adam Smith, during which time Carl made a fantastic recovery. And what a great finish to the race that was. He's in a pretty deep rut line on that side of the course. Have to keep our eyes on that one. It's on the red course, about 3-4 gates down. Could cause Biverson for Sweden now a problem. He's next to race on that course. He's already raced on the blue, of course. This, the first race of the final. One of these 2 men will finish up with the gold medal today. Biverson on the red course. Flander on the blue. On paper, Flander is the better of the 2 riders, but at the moment it's Biverson, the Swede, that has the upper hand. Now Rock Flander gets into his stride. A mistake from Daniel Biverson on the red course. That gives Flander a little bit more of a lead. He's about 2 meters ahead now of the Swede. Looking good, into his rhythm. Biverson, though, is not giving up the fight. Once again, we see the lead changing hands. This isn't a fantastic course in Solden. It could go either way. It's going to be very, very close between the 2. Only 0.03 of a second. Daniel Biverson coming out just behind Rock Flander. Well, that was fantastic racing. Just as we saw in the last race, the lead changing hands 2 or 3 times. Credit to the course setters up here in Solden. They've got it just right. The course is very well balanced. Now Flander, who I've mentioned before, is of course the world champion, isn't quite showing the consistency and the dynamic, explosive riding that we're used to seeing from him. Daniel Biverson, the Swede, giving him a run for his money all the way to that gold medal. Here we go then for race number 2 of the small final. Benjamin Carl on the blue course, Adam Smith of the USA on red. Now I did mention earlier on that Benjamin Carl, crashing out like he did, could have handed Smith the bronze medal, and it very probably has, barring out, of course, a very, very big mistake from Adam Smith. Now, Smith just needs to take his time. He needs to play it cool and stay on that course. He's an experienced rider. 73 World Cup starts to his name. He should have the experience just to hold on and keep the Austrian a good, safe distance and go ahead and claim that bronze medal position. But as we've seen on this course in Solden, things can change. And in snowboard racing, it can go either way. But as predicted, Adam Smith does indeed go through to claim that bronze medal position. A rare podium finish for him. And in 4th place, Benjamin Carl, a big smile on his face. That's the best World Cup result of his career. There is Benjamin Carl pushing the American as hard as he could, trying to force an error, and ultimately that was the only thing that could have kept Adam Smith off that podium. Smith was able to just play it cool, cruise down the 27 gates, not risking anything, which is what he did to take that bronze medal. Now, who is going to take the gold? Who is going to take the silver? Number 8 for Sweden, Daniel Biversen. And number 10 for Slovenia, Rock Flander. This is going to be a tight bit of racing. Both riders very, very well matched. And the course at the moment in Solden, riding brilliantly. There is Rock Flander in his trademark green suit, lining up for what could be his first World Cup win of the season. So the wind picking up a little bit. Rock Flander on the right of the screen on the red course, Biversen on the blue. It's a good start by both riders. 0.03 of a second only. The advantage that Flander had over Biversen from the first round. And both riders needing to go hell for leather for that finish line. Mistakes though from Biversen on the blue course. And that could cost him dear. It'll be very, very difficult for him to come back from that. The hands went down on 2 or 3 occasions, and look at the gap that Rock Flander has opened up. Now, can he hold on, stay in that rhythm as he comes past the photographer on the course? I wonder if he had time to give him a little smile. He probably did, because he has such a good lead over the Swede. And there he is, Rock Flander, taking the gold medal by 1.5 seconds over Daniel Biversen. An incredible bit of riding from the Slovenian. It looks like he has finally found his form. He was nowhere to be seen in Landgraaf in the Netherlands on the indoor course. But that is more like the kind of style that put Rock Flanders on top of the World Championship podium in Arosa last season. Gold medal for him, silver medal for Sweden's Daniel Biversen, and a well-deserved bronze medal for Adam Smith of the US team. Well, there is Biversen of Sweden, banking just about as hard as you can around that toe side edge turn. The knee goes down, and when the knee goes down, sometimes it releases the edge of the board, thereby losing traction, and that's exactly what's happened there. The board rattling and banging around all over the place. Biversen fighting to keep the board online to make that next gate. Now, it was that mistake that cost him the gold medal. It was just enough to open the door for Rock Flander. And once he'd got his eye on that finish line and got into his rhythm, there was no stopping the man. Super smooth from edge to edge. Pulling out his best riding of the day when it really mattered in the final. There, confirmation of the results. Gold for Rock Flander of Slovenia. Silver for Sweden's Daniel Biversen. Bronze medal for Adam Smith. A good result for Benjamin Carl, the Austrian. A couple of the young Austrians featuring in the top 10 there. The Austrian team can be well happy with their new guard. Time for the medals to be dished out. 4th place then, going to Benjamin Carl, a very, very happy young man. Made the trip over here from St. Johann, a classic winter sports area. He couldn't have a better area to train in. St. Johann, of course, famous for the quality of its snow. And young Benjamin Carl looking very happy with his 4th place and best World Cup result to date. And in 3rd place, Adam Smith, another very, very happy man. He's only had 2 World Cup podiums in a very long career. This makes it 3. Both his other podium places, interestingly enough, were in Landgraaf in the Netherlands on an indoor course. And he's proved that he can do the business on the real snow too, with that bronze medal today. Silver going to Sweden's Daniel Biberson. We haven't seen him on a podium for some time. He was 6th in the World Cup standings last year, and that 2nd place today means that he is now a major competitor for a top 3 position in this early stage of the season. But the win goes to the danger man, Rock Flander. We never really know which way he's going to go. He's always riding on the edge, always exciting, always pushing the limits. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but the last couple of years it has worked more than it has not. And it certainly worked today in Solden. Gold medal going to Rock Flander, the reigning world champion, stamping his mark on the 2007-2008 season in Solden.
The overall World Cup leader is still, and please come to the stage.
Interesting that none of the Swiss team have made it onto the podium. They had a clean sweep of the top 4 places last year. Not so today. Rock Flander taking that gold.
Yeah, I knew I'm very well prepared also before the first race. I was on a good way. I had a second time after the quali, so it could have turned out also as a podium, but I made a mistake, and that's parallel snowboarding. If you make a mistake, you're out. Today I feel very good. I'm very exhausted because I had an injury 20 days ago, and I had to stop snowboarding for 10 days. Make a special therapy, and I can say thanks, a big thanks to the guys who fixed my knee, that I'm able to ride world-class snowboard today.
Pretty exciting stuff from Richard Cobbing there. We have to take another quick break, but don't go away. When we return, Richard Cobbing will be back in the commentary box with the women's parallel giant slalom from Austria.
Not a day goes by without someone using the word digital. My goodness, Sandra, you're looking very digital this evening. Jeffrey, would you please pass the digital? I need to digital on the digital. Yes, set for digital.
Welcome back to World Cup Snowboarding on 4. We're just moments away from the World Cup circuit in Solden, Austria. But before then, hold on to your seats for this week's edition of the Adrenaline Hunters. Skills, thrills, and plenty of spills. No matter what it takes, some people just never stop searching for that ultimate high. From the outright dangerous to the just plain stupid. Hold on to your seats, because each week we'll be bringing you the biggest buzz the mountains have to offer with the Adrenaline Hunters.
Moving and a grooving and a hipping and a hopping and picking and a bubble with a buzz to be a badge. Better take a stand, you're going away.
Don't be distracted. Don't be the fool. Step forward, youth. At the moment of truth, go beyond your senses. Get a clear view. Step forward, at the moment of truth. Don't be distracted. Don't be the fool.
Women's parallel giant slalom action up next. It's back to Richard Cobbing in the commentary box.
Well, here we are in Solden, and as you can see, the cloud has come down. We're at 3,200 metres, quite high up. The weather held out well for the men's event, but for the women, the visibility could well play a big part. We're on the Rettenbach course, 27 gates in all, a 540-metre long course, and we pick up the action for the women's event going into the quarterfinals with the first runs. We can barely see the top of the course there. Svetlana Boldakova meets Nikolian Sabrij in the first race. Sabrij is an interesting racer. About 3 or 4 years ago, she had a couple of storming seasons, then sort of disappeared off the radar for a while. She's come back in strong this season. She took a 3rd place on home snow in Landgraf at the first event of the season. That's Boldakova racing for Russia, and that's Sabrij for the Netherlands. Snow falling on the course now, and as I said, visibility could well play a big part in this Women's World Cup event. Sabrij on the blue course, nearest to the camera, and with a slight lead over the Russian this early stage. The Dutch rider holding on to that lead as they approach the flatter section of the course. It's important to continue momentum. Now there's a problem there for the Dutch rider. Got bounced out of the course on the toe side edge. Couldn't quite hold the line. And Svetlana Boldakova, the Russian, cruises through to claim victory in the first of their 2 quarterfinal races. 1.5 seconds, the maximum penalty given. This is where it all went wrong for Nikolian Sabrij, banking too far over. The edge slips out and the arm and chest go down, and she couldn't recover from that position. On to the second of the quarterfinal heats. Franzi Megert-Kohli meets Heidi Neroira. That's Heidi Neroira there. She took 2nd place in the first World Cup in Landgraf. She finished 2nd on the World Cup standings last season. She's a professional soldier by trade, and she's racing on the right-hand side of the screen on the red course. Franzi Kohli, recently married, incorporating the name of her husband into her surname now. There she is riding on the blue course, coming out of the fog. Both riders quite well matched on paper, but Heidi Neroira goes out 3 or 4 gates in. That's a real disappointment for her. The finished second, as I said, last year on the overall standings, and she will be disappointed if she has a bad start to the season this year, particularly here in Austria on home snow. Well, she's back up and riding again, but that will almost certainly be a 1.5 second time penalty for her that she'll carry through into the second race. So Franzi Kohli on the blue course, going 1.5 seconds up on Austria's Heidi Neureure in race number 1. There's Neureure on the right-hand side of the screen, and just as we saw from Nicolian Sabrige, banking just a little too heavily onto the toe side edge of the board, miscalculating the turn and making contact with the snow. Back up top, Marion Kreiner and Tomoka Takuchi. There's Takuchi for Japan. She was the 3rd fastest in qualifications. She's racing on the red course. Marion Kreiner took the 5th place in the World Cup standings overall last year, so both good riders. And Takuchi racing better than she ever has done at the start of this new season. So Takuchi for Japan on the right-hand side, the red course. Kreiner for Austria on the left on the blue course. And it looks like it's pretty much neck and neck as they hit the flat section of the course. This race looks like it's going to go right to the wire. Just to remind you of the way the competition works, each rider takes a run on a certain course and they swap courses for their second round in the name of fairness. And there we go, 0.32 of a second, the time disadvantage for Marion Kreiner. And Tomoka Takuchi for Japan. The Japanese national champion, like I say, looking better than we've ever seen her. There is Takuchi. She's had one World Cup podium finish only. That was the 3rd place back in 2004 in Sapporo in Japan. But she's made it through the quarters, and she's looking like she has every intention of progressing yet further in this competition. Here we go then, Carmen Ranegler versus Isabella Labourc. Ranegler for Italy on the blue course, Labourc for Germany on the red. It's a good start for the German on the red course. Seemed to get a little bit of a jump on the Italian racer. And as she pulls next to the camera, well, it still looks like it's neck and neck. And we can see, by the way, the girls are riding. They're really having to play it safe in these poor visibility conditions. Very, very difficult to judge the turns, and particularly to judge the ruts that form around those turns. It's almost like the monorail going around these bends, and it's very easy to get fired out of it. And that is what's just happened there for Isabella Labourc. Disappointment for her as Carmen Ranegler for Italy crosses the line with a big time advantage. 1.5 seconds going her way, and that's a time advantage that she'll carry when they swap courses a little bit later on. So, so far, after 4 races, we can definitely say that the visibility is playing a part in today's event. 3 or 4 of the World Cup racers crashing out there, and I can say with pretty much certainty that it's to do with the poor visibility. Lens choice in the goggles, absolutely critical. But with fog hanging around the mountain like this and snow falling, it certainly doesn't make the riding very easy. So, the second runs of the ladies' quarterfinals. The racers will be swapping courses. Those races that were on the red course in the first run will now be on the blue. Nicolian Sabrige there in the start gate on the blue course for the Netherlands against Svetlana Boldakova. Sorry, Sabrige will be on the blue course. There she is. Now, Boldakova has a 1.5 second time disadvantage, so all Sarbridge needs to do is play it safe, which is easier said than done when there's as much fog as this around. And Boldakova, the Russian, will be stalking Sarbridge and just waiting for a mistake, hoping to force an error. Well, Boldakova's arms went down onto the snow there. That will have slowed her down there. She was making a good run on Sarbridge, and she touches down again. That's 2 or 3 times she's gone down now. Every time she closed the gap, she just pushed it that little too hard, and Sarbridge has managed to maintain the lead. And it's a good lead, 1.57 seconds. And that means that Sarbridge progresses through to the semi-finals. Great to see her back on form after a couple of seasons of mediocre riding. I've hardly seen her in the top 10 at all these last couple of years, but she's come in great guns at the start of this new season. And Boldakova really struggling with the visibility and making 2 or 3 mistakes as she progresses down that red course. A good riding from Sarbridge. She was in fact the fastest of the qualifiers, so she's certainly one to watch in Solden. She's already bagged the bronze medal in the first event of the year in Landgraf, and looks like she has every intention of getting a medal here in Solden too. Okay, back up top for Heidi Neurora and Franzi Megert-Coley. Neurora on the blue course, Coley on the red. Neurora carrying a 1.5 second time disadvantage. Now her gate will open 1.5 seconds after the gate of Coley, which means that what we're looking at now is a straight race to the line. First across the line progresses to the semi-finals. As you'd expect, Coley has the advantage at this stage, although it's very difficult to actually say who's got the advantage. The visibility's so bad we can hardly see the riders. It may come to a point when the competition organisers have to call a halt to the proceedings. The visibility gets much worse than it currently is. A great riding from Heidi Neurora. She's pulled level with Coley of Switzerland, and it looks like she's pulled into the lead. Yes, she has. Something's happened to Coley. We don't know what that was. We couldn't see, but somewhere up in that fog, something went badly wrong for Megert-Coley. And Neurora, who went into that race with a 1.5 second disadvantage, manages to come out on top and progress through to the semi-finals. Well, on the replay, we can see that that's where it's gone wrong for Franzi Megert-Coley. Disappointment for the Swiss team as she spins out, and a great bit of riding from Heidi Neurora, keeping her cool and forcing an error from the Swiss rider. So Neurora is through. Who will go through from the next pairing? Takuchi of Japan, there she is, focusing before the gate opens against Marion Kreiner of Austria. Takuchi on the blue course, Kreiner on the red. Kreiner with 0.32 of a second time disadvantage. Now if Takuchi can hold on to this position, can hold on to this lead and progress into the semi-finals, she will have scored herself one of her best ever World Cup results. And it's a great time to do it at the beginning of the season. Nothing like a strong result in the first couple of events of the year for a motivation boost. But Marion Kreiner is a tough opponent. She's got more experience on the World Cup than the Japanese rider, and the Japanese rider goes out. Well, that is a disappointment. Once again, a victim of the poor visibility, I would guess. Takuchi knew that Kreiner was closing the gap on her, opened the gas up just a little bit too much. Certainly too much for what the conditions would allow, and sadly spins out on the midsection of the course. Delight for Marion Kreiner of Austria. She comes from behind to progress through to the semi-final. Now, not only is the actual visibility poor because of the fog, but that fresh snow falling on the course. I'll be covering up those rut lines on the bends. And the racers really do rely on being able to see those to judge them properly. A little bit of a guessing game when you can't see them. And the results, well, we've seen plenty of people spinning out so far in this quarter-final round. One heat remaining in the women's quarter-finals. Looks like there may be some delay in the proceedings. I wonder whether the safety committee are having a conversation about the level of visibility. Well, the two racers are in the gate. Looks like they haven't had the standby signal just yet. Still got their jackets on. Coaches tending them. Last few minutes of leg massage, trying to keep that lactic acid build up to a minimum. And here we go. Looks like we're away. Carmen Ranigla there in wearing number 20, racing for Italy. She goes in with the 1.5 second time advantage over Isabella Labourc of Germany. Well, it could go either way, this decision. I think the visibility has steadily got worse as this women's quarter-final round has progressed. We were very lucky with the men's event. The conditions were actually quite good. But the cloud came in, and with it came some snow. And we've seen almost 50% of the racers making mistakes so far in this quarter-final round. Well, it looks like they're going ahead. They're going to press on with the competition. It's a winter sport, and the racers, I suppose, have to be able to deal with winter conditions. It does mean that it throws the result wide open, though, and often when the conditions are like this, the form boot goes out of the window. So Labourc on the blue course, I should say, with a 1.5 second disadvantage. There she is. Ranigla on the right-hand side of the screen. And as they come past the camera, we can see the gap needs to be closed by Labourc of Germany. Here we go, onto the flat section. Now it's very important to keep those turns smooth, not to overwork the turns, to be able to carry that speed through that flat midsection until they get onto the steeper, lower section of the course. 3 or 4 gates remaining. Ranigla still in control, and there's a mistake from Isabella Labourc. She was pushing too hard to close that gap, wasn't able to do it, span out of the race, leaving Carmen Ranigla of Italy to progress through to the semi-finals. Yet another victim of the poor visibility, Isabella Labourc of Germany. There she goes. Getting the setup all wrong for that turn. Looks like she's got the balance point of her shoulders and hips set up completely wrong as she approached that turn. It's all over for her. She spins out of the competitions. Now we're going to take a look at the consolations rounds now. This next few set of races to decide the positions of 5th place down to 8th place. Franzi Kohli for Switzerland meets Svetlana Boldakova of Russia. Takuchi for Japan against Labourc of Germany. Labourc, who we've just seen go out in that last heat. Well, it looks like Labourc has opted not to race in this consolation round. I'm sorry, Mega Kohli it should be, that was supposed to be racing against Svetlana Boldakova. But Boldakova's out there by herself. I don't know what's behind that decision. Maybe she's just written the day off. Visibility's too bad. She's done her day's work. She can't affect the position too much. It'll either be 5th, 6th, 7th or 8th. And she's obviously decided that the conditions are so bad, it's not worth worrying about those final positions at this stage in the day. So Svetlana Boldakova takes her run, which means that she'll progress through to the next of the consolation rounds and could end up with some decent World Cup points at the end of the day for her efforts. Well, there's the warm-up preparation and waxing area at the top of the hill. And it's all smiles from Tomoka Takuchi of Japan. She'll be meeting Isabella Labourc of Germany. There is Labourc, number 14. Both of these racers, relative newcomers to the World Cup. We don't see them too often in the top 10, so they're both doing quite well today to have made it through to the quarter-final rounds. LeBurk on the blue course, Takuchi on the red. And as we've seen in the earlier rounds, both racers will get 2 runs on the course, swapping lines between the two. And LeBurk once again goes out on the blue course. A repeat performance almost of what she did in that quarter-final round against Carmen Ranegler. So Isabella LeBurk with a 1.5, sorry, Takuchi I should say, Tomoka Takuchi with a 1.5 second time advantage. And looking good for some decent World Cup points again. Now we're going to take a break from Solden at this stage. We'll be back with more action after this break.
Acqua di Gio. Giorgio Armani. Love is a treasure. Trésor. Lancôme.
It was meant to be the hottest curry house in town.
We wanted to create something that had a bit of a wow factor.
It looks ghastly.
This is a first for me, turning around an Indian restaurant.
That looks like a large pair of knickers.
Who went out and saw this idea in a restaurant and thought, this is amazing?
All new Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. Tuesday at 9 on 4.
Welcome back to Solden. And as you can see, the conditions haven't got any better. Just ahead of the semi-finals, run 1. Nicolien Saarbrügge for the Netherlands and Heidi Neurora for Austria. First to go. They'll be followed up by Carmen Ranegler of Italy and Marion Kreiner of Austria. So we're up top, ready to go. There's Neurora, who's done something right this summer in her technique training and strength training. She's had the best start to her season for 3 years. Heidi Neurora, of course, a better than average opponent, the silver medalist in the overall stakes for the slalom events last year. Now, Saarbrügge goes out 3 gates in. We've seen her do that once or twice already in the earlier rounds. And she's done it again now and opened the door through to the final for Heidi Neurora. Now, let's not speak too soon. Anything can happen in parallel slalom racing, or parallel giant slalom racing, I should say, which is what we're looking at now, and particularly when the weather conditions are like this. Now, that's a brilliant recovery from Nicolien Saarbrügge to actually go down, touch a hand like that, and come back with that kind of a recovery. Well, she doesn't come out on top, but she has a brilliant finish and only goes 0.18 of a second down on Heidi Neurora. A fantastic recovery, and that leaves the result open to be decided without doubt in the second run. Neurora there nearest to the camera. She took second place in Landgraf at event number 1. Saarbrügge took third. So these guys obviously well matched this season. Next to ride, Marion Kreiner of Austria and Carmen Ranegler of Italy. Ranegler on the blue course, Kreiner on the red. Just to remind you, you probably can't see from that picture, but the blue course is on the left of the screen, the red course on the right. Visibility playing an increasingly important role in this competition. And there we go. Kreiner, I should say, going out on the red course. leaving Ranigler to cruise through to the finish line. That'll be a 1.5 second time penalty for Marion Kreiner. And just to remind you of the way the event works, she'll carry that through to the second run. She'll carry that time disadvantage through when she swaps over and rides on the blue course in the second round of the semi-finals. Well, you can see she's absolutely way behind there, but there's a maximum time penalty allowed of 1.5 seconds, which is what is awarded to Marion Kreiner for that crash. Well, roughly about 50% of the women in this quarterfinal and semi-final round have been making mistakes, so the result is still wide open. Current, or last year, I should say, the defending World Cup champion, Amelie Kober, went out in the earlier rounds, so on paper, Neurohrer is the strongest placed, but as we've seen, with poor visibility like this, it's an open book. Now we take a look back at some of the consolation rounds. We're back up top with Svetlana Boldakova from Russia. Consolation rounds to decide positions 5 down to 8. Now Boldakova's opponent in these consolation rounds was Franzi Megat-Coley, who's opted not to race. She's decided to settle for 8th place. Boldakova is going to take her run single-handedly, which means she'll progress to the next round of the consolation rounds and could end up in either 5th or 6th place, which of course means more World Cup points. Just look at the visibility there. It makes commentating the event quite difficult, but of course it makes riding in the event 100 times more difficult. Well, there she goes. It's a great start for the Russian. Well ahead at this stage. Riding on the blue course, and all she needs to do is cross that line without riding out of the course, really. No competitor against her. She just wants to progress through to that next round, get the highest finishing place in the competition that she can to claim those World Cup points. She only finished in 15th place at World Cup #1 in the Netherlands, in Landgraaf. And she'll finish in either 5th or 6th place today. So a good day's work for Svetlana Boldakova, riding for Russia. She's only ever had one World Cup podium finish. She won't be getting one today, but it's a good start to the season for her. Now, the next of the consolation rounds, Tomoko Takuchi for Japan meets Isabella Labok of Germany. There's Takuchi. And the winner of this race will go through to meet Svetlana Boldakova in the next of the consolation rounds to battle for that 5th or 6th place finish. I'm just wondering how much longer the event can continue without the safety committee making the call that the visibility has become too serious to continue. You can barely see down the course on those long shots. Rider's eye view, they must be only able to see about the first 6 or 7 gates of the 27 gates that make up the course. But the big problem isn't really the gates. They're not too difficult to see. It's the ruts around the gates. They're a deep rut, almost like a rail. And you pretty much need to get your board into that rail and hold on to that turn if you don't want to get fired out of the line and out of the course. Well, there's something of a delay here. Maybe the safety committee are taking a few moments out to consult with each other about the possibility of putting the event on hold. And when the event does slow down like this, of course, critical for the athletes to keep themselves warmed up. Once the jacket and over trousers come off, at this kind of altitude, it's about minus 14 today, up here at 3,200 meters. Keeping the muscles warm is quite some challenge. Of course, Europe experiencing a fantastic start to the season when it comes to snowfall. And we're witnessing some of that right now here in Solden. Makes for great skiing and snowboarding, of course, but when it's actually coming down, it does make it pretty tricky to run the event. It's not just a case of the riders being able to find their way down the course. The course officials need to be able to judge whether the riders stayed within the gates of the course as well, and that can be easier said than done with thick fog like this. So there's Takuchi of Japan. Getting ready in the blue course. It looks like the call has been made that the competition can continue. See, she's going with a clear goggle lens. A lot of the riders would opt for a yellow or a pink lens in their poor visibility like this, just to boost the contrast a little bit. But Takuchi on the blue course going for the clear lens. Seems to be working for her. She's got a good lead over Isabella Lebuc. She did have a 1.5 second advantage after the first round of this consolation run. And Lebuc, we can just see, has gone out in the background. So Takuchi probably doesn't know that yet. And it looks like she's playing it pretty safe anyway. Well, unless something goes seriously wrong, she'll be riding through to meet up with Svetlana Boldakova in the race-off for 5th and 6th position. Isabella Lebuc, once again, coming off the worst of the visibility and spinning out before she made the halfway section of this Solden course. The course is 540 meters long, but I can imagine it feels a lot longer when you can't see the finish line. Here we go then with the ladies semi-finals, run number 2. These races to decide who progresses through to the final and who progresses to the losers final. There's Heidi Neurohrer, professional soldier racing for the Austrian team. Tremendous competitor, one of the more experienced in this World Cup in Solden. And she's up against Nicolien Sauerbrei of the Netherlands. Now Neurohrer on the red course, there she is, had a 0.18 of a second time advantage over Nicolien Sauerbrei after that first run. And it looks like it's anybody's game at the midway point. Now, both riders will be aware that they're neck and neck, and they'll both have to push hard if they want to progress through to that final, and it means mistakes could easily come in these conditions. It's still neck and neck in the closing stages of this race. Who's it going to be? A very, very close race. Well, it is Heidi Neurohrer who finishes in the lead by 0.36 of a second. The graphic tells us otherwise, but I think that is a mistake. Delight on the face of Heidi Neurohrer. It is, in fact, the Austrian that progresses through to those finals. So Sauerbrei is going to end up in either 3rd or 4th place, and whatever that is a great start to the season for her. The best we've seen for quite some time. Back up top then, Marion Kreiner. meets Carmen Ranegler. Kreiner for Austria on the blue course. Ranegler for Italy on the red. Ranegler way out in front because she carries a 1.5 second advantage from the first round, but there's a mistake from Ranegler. Now, she really threw that away. She really just needed to play it safe. Incredible that she let herself make that mistake. I shouldn't judge her too harshly because the conditions are diabolical, as you can see. But look at that, what an upset in the closing stages of the semi-finals. Marion Kreiner has come through from 1.5 seconds behind and looks very much like she'll be progressing through to the final in the race-off for the gold and silver medals. Can she hold on? She should be able to. She's an experienced rider. Yes, she does. What a disappointment for Carmen Ranegler. She pretty much had that one in the bag. But as we've already seen, you just can't count your chickens too soon when the visibility is down like this. So easy to make a mistake, to misjudge one of those turns and get fired out of the line, miss a gate. It's over in a fraction of a second. That's Marion Kreiner. She rode the better race, played it safe, as Ranegler spins out of the race and the competition. It's through to the losers final for her. The best she can hope for now is third place. No chance of gold or silver. Marion Kreiner rides on, and she'll be meeting Heidi Neurohrer in an Austria versus Austria final. On with the consolation rounds then, deciding 5th to 8th place. Isabella Leburk against Franzi Mega-Coley. There's Coley for Switzerland. She goes in the red course. Leburk of Germany, who's spun out in the last 3 races, goes in the blue course. And just look at that fog. Difficult to see who's who and which course they're on. Neck and neck at this point though. And you can see by the way they're riding, they're really holding back. Leburk has gone out enough already. She doesn't want to go out again now. She's going to try and save the knee. She doesn't need any more bruises. No, she's going to get either 7th or 8th place in this competition. It'll be reasonable World Cup points. Her hard work is done for the day. Look at that. Coley on the red course, riding out as we've seen so many times from the other racers. It's been a tough event for the ladies in the later stages of the competition, particularly stressful for everybody concerned, racing in foggy conditions like this. So Leburk knows that she will now finish up in 7th place. Franzi Mega-Coley has to settle for 8th after that crash. Now the last of the consolation rounds before we move on to the finals to decide the medals. This race off now for 5th and 6th place between Svetlana Boldakova, who'll be racing on the red course, and Tomoka Takuchi of Japan, racing on the blue. There is Takuchi. She's on the left of the screen now. Boldakova on the red course on the right. Both racers getting bumped around a little bit as they go around those bends. A lot of fresh snow on the course, covering up the rut lines. Here they are on the flat section. Looks like it's neck and neck at this stage. Both racers doing well to carry the momentum from the top steeper section through that flat section. Still neck and neck as they get onto the steeper closing reaches of the race. It could go either way. It's going to be a real race to the line. And it is, in fact, Takuchi who gets the nod. She carries a 0.55 second time advantage into the second run of the consolation rounds. So it's still to be decided between Boldakova and Takuchi. which place they'll finish. They're very well matched on paper and on snow. Here we go then with the finals. We're down to the last 4 races, the first runs, and it is Nicolian Sabrige and Carmen Ranagler to race off first. But the gold medal to be decided in the final between Marion Kreiner and Heidi Neurohrer. Here we go then with the small final for 3rd and 4th place. Run number 1, Nicolian Sabrige of the Netherlands on the red course, Carmen Ranagler of Italy on the blue. Now, a strong performance from Sabrige of the Netherlands could see her claim her 2nd bronze medal of the season in 2 World Cups. It'd be a great result for her if she could. Don't forget, there are 2 races to go before we know that. This is the first of those 2. But at the moment, Sabrige on the red course, on the right of your screen, has the upper hand. Racing well, letting the board run, taking a few risks. She's really flying down that course compared to the last couple of races we've seen in those consolation rounds. A lot more to fight for here. This is the difference between a medal and no medal. And at the moment, in the first of 2 runs, it is Sabrige of the Netherlands who looks like she is on course to claim her 2nd bronze medal of the season. Let's not speak too soon though. Anything can happen, and there is still 1 more race to go in this small final. But Sabrige seems to be turning the gas on at the right moment in the closing stages of the event. There's Ranagler of Italy and Sabrige of the Netherlands. She's a very smooth rider. Once she gets into her rhythm, she's very, very difficult to catch. Here we go then. The top 2, the final. Race number 1. Marion Kreiner versus Heidi Neurohrer. Kreiner on the blue course. Neurohrer on the red. Austria versus Austria. 2 very experienced racers. Neurohrer seems to have form on her side, but I spoke too soon. She spins out on the red course. That is a disappointment for the World Cup silver medalist from last year. You can see the frustration showing. Doesn't matter how good the preparation is, doesn't matter how good you are on paper. When the visibility closes in like this, anything can happen. Neurohrer, yet another victim of the poor visibility. So Kreiner finishing 1.5 seconds up on her teammate after that first of 2 runs, and it's going to need a big mistake from her if Neurohrer is going to claim that gold medal that I think she believes is hers. Well, you could just see the vibration of the board as she went into that toe side turn. She couldn't hold on to it, just getting thrown about by the rut. I guess there's quite a lot of new snow in that rut, making it a bit bouncy, and Heidi Neurohrer not managing to control the situation. Now, Marion Kreiner does like this course. She took the bronze medal here last year. It's one of her favourite courses, and there's plenty of Austrian support for her here today. There is too, of course, for Heidi Neurohrer, but Kreiner, I know, really favours this Solden course. Okay, back up top. Another consolation round. Franzi Kohli of Switzerland meets Isabella Leberk of Germany to decide 7th and 8th place. Leberk on the right on the red course, Kohli on the left on the blue, and Kohli with the 1.5 second time disadvantage after that crash in the first race. Well, is it worth fighting for? She'll have to risk quite a lot. Injury, of course, never welcome, whether it's the beginning or middle or end of the season. And the racers are risking injury if they're pushed too hard. It's only the difference between 7th and 8th place, and Kohli is probably weighing up the value of that in her head right now. Well, it looks like she's opted to push for it. She's pulled level and, in fact, pulled ahead of the German. Brilliant racing from Franzi Coley. She started off 1.5 seconds behind. She's pulled out all the stops. She's pulled level, but doesn't manage to quite do enough. She'll have to settle for 8th place as Isabella Leberc just holds on to the win by 0.15 of a second to claim 7th place. Well, it was a brave piece of racing from Franzi Coley. Leberc thought she had it in the bag, I guess. Coley decided to forget about the poor conditions, open up the gas, and really give the German a run for her money. Now the race off for 5th and 6th place. Svetlana Boldakova, there she is, from Russia, number 15. Races against Tomoka Takuchi of Japan. Takuchi on the red course, on the right of the screen, Boldakova on the blue. There is Boldakova. Takuchi with a 0.55 second advantage from the first run. She needs to close that gap if she wants to finish ahead of Boldakova. Don't forget, this is a straight race for the line now. The time advantage is incurred by the gate opening pattern at the top of the course. So Takuchi's gate will have opened 0.55 of a second after that of Boldakova. And despite that, she's managed to close the gap and looks like she may have pulled ahead. Well, it looks like Takuchi has actually gone out on the red course. Yes, she has. What a disappointment. She was doing so well. She closed the gap, pulled level. Looks like she could have bagged the 5th place. Boldakova held her nerve, and the mistake came from Takuchi. So Boldakova will be awarded 5th place. Takuchi will have to make do with 6th. Well, there's a big smile on her face, and she should be pleased with that. It is one of her best results for quite some time. Look at the concentration on the face of Boldakova. Eyes fixed on the turning point of that gate. But with visibility like this, you can't afford to look at any one gate for too long. You've got to be scanning up ahead in front of you and initiate those turns and try and judge the distance between the gates accurately, which is very, very difficult in flat light conditions. It's even more difficult to judge the terrain. As we've seen, those ruts claiming a few victims. Takuchi of Japan, the latest. This is what it's all about, though. The medal positions, the small final and the final. Nicolien Sabrige there from the Netherlands versus Carmen Ranegla of Italy. Sabrige going in with a 1.18 second time advantage over the Italian. And if she can hold on to that, the bronze medal will be hers, the 2nd bronze medal of her season. That's how the 1.18 second advantage translates into distance on the snow. It's a good 7 or 8 meters, and it's a big gap for Carmen Ranegla of Italy to close. She'll be hoping for a mistake from the Dutch rider, but at the moment Sabrige looks to be into her swing. She's into her rhythm. Smooth turns, trademark stuff from her. She's one of the smoothest riders on the World Cup circuit when she really gets into her stride. Riegler pushing too hard, making a mistake. It looks like indeed the bronze medal will go the way of Nicolien Sabrige, and it does by 0.57 of a second. Delight for her. 2 bronze medals in 2 World Cup events, and we now know that Nicolien Sabrige of the Netherlands is serious about her campaign to claim the World Cup title in the 2007-2008 season. She's been nowhere in the last 2 seasons. She was a real contender in the 2 seasons prior to that, but she is now back, and back with a vengeance. Now, if you're watching this and you want to learn how to turn a snowboard, just keep your eyes on Nicolien Sabrige there. Perfect timing from the toe side to the heel side edge. Nice, quiet shoulders, keeping the center of gravity low. Eyes fixed on the turning point as she sinks into that heel side turn and jams that edge into the snow. Textbook stuff from Nicolae and Sabrige. And it's a bronze medal she'll be riding away from Solden with today. Ranagler pushed as hard as she could to close that gap. She had nothing to lose. It was either going to be third or fourth place, but with the time disadvantage she started with in that second run, it had to be all or nothing. She pushed, but it was a little bit too hard. It's fourth place for her. Who is going to get the silver medal though? And who is going to get the gold? Well, it'll be one of these two racers, Marion Kreiner or Heidi Neurohrer. Kreiner finished in third place last year, so she's already gone at least one better than that. But Heidi Neurohrer finished second overall last year and would dearly love to make it a gold this season. She finished third at the first World Cup in Landgraf, did Neurohrer. And she's racing on the left-hand side of the screen on the blue course. Well, she goes in with a 1.5 second disadvantage. So if Marion Kreiner can hold on to that advantage, then the gold medal will be hers. Nothing to lose for Heidi Neurohrer. She needs to push all the way to the line. If she crashes out, it doesn't matter. She's going to get the silver medal anyway, but if she wants the gold, she's really going to have to take some risks and open up the gas in this last race of the day in Solden. Kreiner, though, is racing superbly. She hasn't put an edge wrong so far. The rhythm is perfect, the turns is perfect. 2 more gates to go and the gold is hers. And she gets it. Marion Kreiner claims gold on home snow, 0.67 of a second ahead of her teammate Heidi Neurohrer. The bronze medal she took last year, she's made it a gold this time round. An excellent result for the Austrian ladies and a brilliant result for Nicolae and Sabrige in third. There's confirmation. Kreiner in first, Neurohrer second, Sabrige third, Carmen Ranagler in fourth place, and Boldakova and Takuchi for Russia and Japan, getting 2 of their best results in World Cup for a year or two. Now that second place finish for Neurohrer puts her into the lead of the World Cup standings. Sabrige is in second, and the win for Kreiner puts her into third.
It was a really, really good run for you today. How did you cope with the conditions?
Yeah, I didn't care about them. I concentrate on myself, and I tried to focus on the course and let the snow fall. That's it, and was good.
Fantastic stuff from the women's parallel giant slalom there in Austria, and we'll be following the giant slalom section of the Snowboarding World Cup Tour throughout this series. Coming up next is a feature I know a lot of you watch very carefully indeed. The Christmas holidays are just around the corner, so without further ado, let's get this week's Snow Report.
It's been a slow start to the American season with unseasonably warm weather and a distinct lack of snow. However, all that has finally changed. In Colorado, winter storms have brought new snow across the state, with both Vail and Breckenridge enjoying fresh powder. On the East Coast, the New Hampshire and Maine resorts have received light snowfall over the past week. Sunday River enjoying the best of the conditions, with almost half of the lifts open and 33 centimeters of snow forecast. Over towards the West Coast, Utah is a mixed bag. Park City is up and running with limited lifts open. However, Deer Valley remains closed and many resorts are still lacking snow. And finally, let's take a look at conditions in Aspen, which is where we're headed next week. Well, once again, it's not been a fantastic start to the season, but the resort is open and 24 centimeters of snow is forecast in the next 5 days. So keep your fingers crossed. For more information on these conditions and the bumper snowfall that continues across Europe, log on to channel4.com/skiing.
And that's all we've got time for in this week's show. We'll be back with more action from the snowboarding and freestyle skiing World Cup tours next Friday here on 4. But if you want more winter sport, stick with us. We've got downhill action from the Alpine Tour this coming Sunday and Nordic skiing every Tuesday. But until next Friday, for all you snowboard fans from the snowboarding team here at Channel 4, it's goodbye for now.
More from the Alps on Sunday morning. World Cup skiing at 7:55. Next, though, it's countdown.
Missed your favourite Channel 4 show? Now you can catch them all an hour later with Channel 4 Plus One.
Feeling sexy?
Woohoo!
I don't want to properly develop anymore. I want to go home. Disgusting.
Yes!
I'm Damien. Go.
Go! Buddy!
I want to give you £10,000.
Oh, Joey, we can't do that. That's fantastic.
We've got one. Got a fish. You can do it, Alex.
Loving
it. All your favourite shows, 1 hour later. Channel 4 Plus One.
We're on holiday!
Are you, little girl?
Yeah, and my dad's not working.
Welcome to America.
Are we going